call.
John Hutzko.
Steve Caswell.
Bob Wilbarg.
Lori G.
John Cutler.
Teresa Golden.
Great, thank you very much. And if everyone would join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, just a note for our minutes, we have both of our alternates seated tonight for absent planning board members. We have two upcoming meeting dates, one on September 15th and one on October 6th. And if it's all right with the board, I'd like to hold over the approval of the minutes from July 21. I haven't had a chance to look at them yet. What I'd like to do, if it's all right, I'd like to move item number 7 up to be our first item to hear. If we could bring Beekman Golf up. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Hello. I know we kept you waiting a very long time at one of our prior meetings, and I want to make sure we get you.
I appreciate with my arm the way it is. It's especially appreciated.
No problem.
You want to handle that? You hold it on. I got it. You got it?
Clips up there. We used to have big binder clips on the edges of the boards. We'll have to remember to do that again. Oh, is it cork? Okay. Yeah, we should have something up there so that.
Honorable Board, as you know, we are seeking to subdivide an 8-acre parcel which is to the north of the golf course because, as the board knows, it's our intention to sell the golf course, and this was separate land, and we have entered into an agreement with the town where the golf course will be forever a golf course, and we're surrendering the development rights of the golf course. And because of the way it's written, we felt it advisable to carve out this 8-acre parcel, which the town knew always that we intended to not be included because that would not be fair. It's not part of the golf course.
Okay.
The issue came up as to whether the property could be divided into 2 or 3 lots. And the issue came up as to the division of what a flag lot is, because you can only have 2 flag lots, as I understand the ordinance. It is our position that the first lot is not a flag lot. It stands on its own. It is its full frontage, and it is a good building lot. And the other 2 are flag lots, but they do have clear and good 50-foot access to a town road. And we respectfully submit that we are in compliance with the ordinance, and we ask the board to grant that this is a fair and reasonable application of the property in the future.
So a couple of questions for you. First, I just want to make sure right now you're not asking for us to approve the three lots on that smaller piece. You're just asking us to carve out the 8-acre parcel.
As Ms. Robbins explained to me, I have to take things one step at a time, and I will. It is not our intention to do an ultimate subdivision of the property. It's our intention to sell that parcel. Okay. I would hope maybe to come back to get sketch plan approval at some future time, just so that I can reasonably sell it where a future buyer might reasonably anticipate 3 lots. But at this time, all we seek is to divide this 8-acre parcel off from the remainder of the golf course.
Right. Well, I want to make sure that you understand and the board understands exactly what we're doing and then what the guidelines would be for the future subdivision. So one of the things we do whenever we're looking at a subdivision is we have to consider, is there further development expected in the future? So you have come to us and you said, I want to subdivide this 8 acres. I believe that I will have further subdivisions in the future, further development in the future. So the requirement and the burden on you is to show us what that future development may look like. The level for the board's review is not necessarily to look at every aspect of that proposed plan to make sure it would work and that all it would be is come in front of us and we can approve it in the future. The level of review for the board for this type of application is to understand what the maximum additional development may be. So I think what you're proposing is saying you think you can have 3 lots here. You're showing a potential plan for that. I do understand, and Michelle, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do understand there's some potential interpretation of the flag lot section of the town code that may be needed, but to be frank, not knowing when you might actually have the application in front of us for those 3 lots, I don't know what the town code would even be at that time. So I just want to be really clear that I'm comfortable that you're showing a maximum of 3 lots, whether or not when you actually come in front of us for that subdivision, whether that's possible or not based on our existing code at the time when you made that application, whether or not the interpretation of the flag lot changes or something like that. I would be comfortable as a member of the board saying I'm comfortable that 3 would be your maximum out of those 8 acres. But we're not going to approve that flag lots are possible here or that this layout is the right layout for 3 lots. So that would be something you'd need to do in the future.
No, I fully understand that. I come here now. So we engaged in the enterprise of showing what the maximum was because
Right.
the town planner, as I understood it, because of the secret requirement, I had to show with reasonable accuracy
Right,
that
right.
what the maximum density could be, and we have diligently tried to do so. And we understand you give us nothing here today, if you give it to me, except to subdivide this 8 acres from the 40-odd acres of that portion of the golf course.
Okay.
And that's all that we expect, but also reserving the right to come back at some future time, and then hopefully to get sketch plan approval and then offer it for sale and in an orderly manner.
I'm very comfortable with that. I'm not, again, the exact layout and whether or not you create or don't create flag lots and things like that, that's something we would decide at a future date, but I'm very comfortable that 3 would likely be the maximum maximum subdivision you could do as an additional subdivision to that 8-acre parcel. Any questions by members of the board or any concern? Good.
I thought there was a time limit after you did the initial subdivision before you can subdivide the property again. 5 years? You're aware of that?
I thought that was not true under these circumstances where we were.
No, you always have you'll always be 5
If it be that way, it is that way.
Okay, I just wanted to bring it because I had a feeling I didn't even mention it.
No, I did not. I thought that that was solely if we did not go through this process. But if it's a 5-year wait, it's a 5-year wait, and that's the way it is. I mean, you know, I've been before this board now for 53 years, and it's been, we've worked and we never asked, I hope, for something that we weren't entitled to, and the board's always been reasonable, and the rules are the rules, and we'll comply with them.
I just brought it up because I didn't want you to think that it wasn't going to apply. That's all.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from board members on the plan or on the intention here? Okay. Brendan, any concern with the subdivision or the conceptual layout? Okay. Michelle, anything on your end?
No, I just want to reiterate that, we did this so that we wouldn't have a secret segmentation issue. And he laid out a conceptual layout for the lots, and he laid out the approximate locations of the wetland, understanding that in 5 years from now, that could change as well. So once the actual subdivision comes in, we would have to relook at some of these things and make sure that everything was still the same. And then also, at that time, determine whether or not your interpretation of what you're saying is a flag lot and what isn't a flag lot is agreed upon by the planning board and or the zoning board if that has to go for an interpretation.
Okay. Joe, anything from Morris?
It's in our review letter as far as we requested that they offer a drainage easement in the corner where the stream enters on the property. There's an existing culvert there that is not currently within a drainage easement. And so that was something in our review letter. And this also borders on the Taconic State Parkway. So they should probably show the 100-foot setback from the Taconic. It winds up being mostly wetland anyway. But
Can I comment on that?
Sure.
The 100-foot wetland setback as required by the town clearly has to take us well beyond the 100-foot Taconic setback. And it was our thinking that because you have the wetlands which would come onto the property and you had 100 feet for the town, that it was unnecessary to show that because it would be impossible for us to be in violation of the Taconic setback, and it would be just one more superfluous line.
okay. That makes
Um,
sense.
I think maybe then just a note
Yeah.
added to the plan that says you realize that your property is within the 100-foot setback for the Taconic, but that it's completely engulfed is not probably the right word. But it's also within the
Yeah.
wetland setback, that's fine. As long as you just make that a note on your plan, I'm fine with not showing the line. Okay. Joe, anything else on your end?
No.
Okay. Scott, anything from the
The
town?
only comment I would have with a shared driveway, the slope is limited to 10% on a shared driveway. And I know there's going to be a grade change coming off Ridgemont. And I think this is just a two-dimensional drawing, but by the time you achieve the 10%, I really don't know where that house on lot, that's that first lot,
C1A.
C1A will really fall, whether you're going to be able to stay outside that buffer. So again, because you're approving this as a maximum, I don't think that's necessarily relevant now, but it will be relevant later when you take
No,
that
I'm
part to
aware
look
of
at
the
it.
grade issues, but
Okay.
that's 5 years in the future.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Do you have any other questions for us?
Could you possibly give me a waiver of a public hearing because it's a minor subdivision and approve it?
I don't think it meets our conditions for minor subdivision, but Tom, I'm going to look at you.
Yeah, it can.
Yeah,
It can?
Because you're not creating more than.
It's under the maximum
Yeah,
acreage, right?
yeah.
Say it again, I didn't hear what you said.
You're not creating two lots, so you can actually declare it a minor subdivision, and you have the right.
So I'm going to have the
name
original
of-
lot and one new lot, so because it's only making one new lot, it can be a minor subdivision? Okay. So then is the board comfortable with this being a minor action? Okay, so we can schedule this then for decision on September 15th?
Do I have to come back?
You do not have to come out if you don't want to, but some of the comments you heard tonight will likely either be updated in our professionals' letters, or we'll make them conditions of the resolution. So it's up to you if you want to hear the resolution.
If I respond by accepting that, then I don't have to come back. But
Right.
I always enjoy coming back, so maybe I'll come back.
We always welcome having you, but that's completely up to you. I'm fine with offering the resolution if you don't want to.
As always, thank you for your courtesies, and
Okay.
it's been a great 53 years of working at it. But, you know,
Likewise.
we've made the most beautiful golf course in the Hudson Valley. We've made it one of the finest subdivisions in Hudson Valley, and it's been a great partnership. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next few items on our agenda are resolutions that we actually offered and already voted on to approve. So I think what we'll do is we'll just, do I need to do roll call or just motion for ratification, Tom? Okay. So if you'll bear with me 1 second. So we should have in our packages tonight, the first one is the Hopewell Gas Station amended site plan on Route 82. And the resolution has just now been documented with all of the same conditions and requirements that we put into our motion at the last meeting. So do I have a motion to accept the amended resolution as presented this evening?
So moved?
Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. That motion carries. The next item on our agenda is the decision for Blue Hill Mobile. Again, documented as we set it forth in our meeting and made a resolution and voted individually at our last meeting. So do I have a motion to accept the Blue Hill Mobile resolution of amended site plan approval?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, and the next item we have, I think I have a negative declaration here for Kali Kaplan. This was an unlisted action under seeker for which a coordinated review was not completed. We reviewed a short form EAF for this, and during that short form review, again, Kali Kaplan, this was just the aligning of the lines on the subdivision that we had previously approved. So we identified no environmental issues as relevant. Do I have a motion to accept the negative declaration?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. And then we have the resolution. And forgive me, Tom, did we offer this resolution at our last meeting? I can't remember now, or is this one we need to offer in full?
No, you offered it last time.
We did offer it last, okay, I'm sorry, I just didn't have it in my notes. Okay, so do I have a motion to accept the resolution of preliminary and final subdivision approval for a minor subdivision, the lot line realignments between the lands of Kali and Kaplan?
Wow, good. So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
That was a mouthful there.
Okay. And Bob, did I forget to ask, were you abstaining on
I
any of
was
these?
abstaining on both the gas stations.
Okay, so you abstained on the Hopewell, and if we could just go back, the Hopewell Gas Station amended site plan and the Blue Hill Mobile, Bob was abstaining on those two votes. I'm sorry, I forgot to
That's
ask for
okay.
abstentions. Okay, the next item we have is Brady's Power Equipment amended site plan. This is another resolution we completed at our last meeting.
Did we just do that one?
We did Kali Kaplan.
Oh.
Did Kelly Kaplan twice?
We did it twice,
No, I
right?
did it,
We
I'm
did
sorry, I
something
did the
twice.
I did the neg deck
Okay.
first, and then I did the
All
resolution.
right. I was
Because
on.
Kali Kaplan needed a neg deck.
Gotcha.
And now we're on Brady's Power Equipment.
Right.
I'm sorry, I know we're doing this in a little bit unusual way. It's because we've actually already offered the resolutions in detail and taken the individual votes. So we have a motion to approve the resolution of amended site plan approval for Brady's Power Equipment.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Sorry about that, Bob, again. All right, the motion carries. And our next item on the agenda is Sabelico's amended site plan. We have a letter from the applicant requesting a deferment of our decision. So unless anyone has any objection on the board, we'll defer that resolution to a later planning board meeting. All right, so the next item on our agenda is a public hearing for Corey 2 lots on Kensington Drive and Dale Road. Pam, do we have everything we need to be able to open the public hearing?
Do I have the
Aye.
notice? I have a copy of it.
Okay, we're ready.
Just one moment.
Oh.
Michelle, do we need to make a motion for lead agency first? And are you helping us?
You circulated the lead agency, so you've already declared your intent to be lead agency.
Do we have to make a motion to be lead agent?
I'm not sure if we passed the 30 days.
Bear with us for one moment. Okay. So do I have a motion to declare lead agency for the East Fishkill Planning Board on the Fakori application, the 2 lots
So
So
moved.
on
moved.
Kensington Drive? And do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And then do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
And a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I just want to make sure we have all our ducks in a row.
Okay, thank
Do
you.
we have the plan that we can put up on the board? Sorry, up on the... Ernie, what I think I'll ask you to do, if you want to turn the board around until, we should be able to get the plan up on the screen shortly that the board can look at, but let's turn the board around since it's a public hearing so the public can see the plan.
See the plan.
Is that on?
Test 1, 2, 3.
Can- Just tap the top? I'm not sure that that one's on.
1, 2, 3.
No tapping.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening. Ernie Martin with KC Engineering in Poughkeepsie. I also have the owner of the property, Mr. Corey, sitting over in the corner. This property is located the corner of Kensington and Dale Road. It's about 4.2 acres. There's an existing house on the property which his parents currently reside. And it's the intent of this application to subdivide the property into 2 parcels. Just a few points about the property. There is a New York State regulated wetland that's been flagged by the DEC, and it's so marked on the map. And we do show the 100-foot adjacent area next to that. It is also in the 100-year floodplain. It's an area designated, and that's been studied by FEMA, that they've determined the floodplain elevation to be at 225. We were able to determine that the 225 elevation is this area here that is so shaded, and it's our intent to construct the new house and the well for that house at least 2 feet above that floodplain elevation. We have done soil tests at the site. We've designed a septic system for the property. It's currently under review at the health department.
Okay.
The well for the current house is actually located in this location. What we will be doing is eliminating that well, abandoning that well, and drilling a new well for this house back in here, in this location. And the well for the new house will be located here, again, within that 100-year floodplain, but the casing will be set at least 2 feet above the floodplain elevation.
Just a couple of questions. The wellhead will be within the floodplain, but you're going to just raise it up high enough that it's at least 2 feet above the base flood elevation?
Yes.
Okay. As far as the location of the septic and all of that, you said you're in front of the health department now?
That's
That'll be
right.
their purview as far as that, okay. Do you meet all the setback requirements that the health department has for between the wells and the septic with the
We
new
do.
well you're placing?
Yes.
Okay. Did we look, because I know this was an existing subdivision, so we were going to pull the original subdivision and just make sure there were no notes that restricted further subdivisions within here. Was there anything on the original? Okay. And then I guess we'll go to questions or comments from board members, and then I'll ask each of you to let us know if there's anything specific within the plan that we need to call out or any concerns that we have. So any questions or comments from board members before we move to our professionals?
I have a question.
Sure.
If, I assume aside from the 100-year floodplain, your well, there's no danger of water getting close to the house?
That's correct.
Okay, because what I'm concerned about is, Are they going to be basements, raised ranches? Because even if you're 2 feet above the floodplain, if you have a basement or a raised ranch type, it's going to be coming in.
Well, I can't say for certain what will be built there, but the way that we've designed the property and the way we've graded it right now reflects a raised ranch type construction. So we show the lower level of the basement area or the garage level to be at least 2 feet above the floodplain.
Okay, so the bottom of the garage is 2 feet above. Cool. We're good.
Okay.
It's actually 5.5 feet.
5.5. We're even better.
Okay.
Other questions or comments from board members? Okay. Brendan, I know we're proposing a new driveway here. Any concerns with the location or site distance?
It does appear that there's actual site distance. It probably should just be noted on the plan that the driveway site distance meets the town code. Then I know there's houses on the opposite side of the street.
Right.
Driveway locations are not shown on the plan, but I know there's not a lot of flexibility with the location of that proposed driveway. But, just to take a look at that to make sure it's, maybe not directly aligned with a house across the street. So, headlights are coming out.
But I also
Okay.
believe there's a minimum setback from the intersection to the driveway too.
Yeah, looks like it's close to being 125, which is the minimum.
Well, a couple things, and that's a point well taken. The existing driveway that serves the house now is in poor shape. So being that we have certain site constraints that we have to, primarily the wetland, that we have to stay away from, we designed this subdivision such that we would remove the existing driveway, construct a brand-new driveway with proper subbase and pavement. And so essentially it's in the same location, but it's a little further to the south.
On the existing house or on the proposed house?
Taking and moving it about.
Ernie, we can't hear you. Do we have
Existing house.
do we have a pointer or something we can have you maybe just point?
Well, if you look at
Johnson.
the,
So, if you want to use the pointer, it would just help us if you can.
Shows we're proposed to existing. On the existing house. Thank you.
so right now the existing driveway is right around where it comes into the existing pavement's right about here. We're just moving it about 20 feet this way. But as you go into the parcel, the existing driveway and the new driveway are one and the same.
That's on the existing house. I think
Yes.
we're talking about the proposed house. The driveway is very close to the street, the intersecting street.
Well, yeah.
And
what
we're
we-
asking additionally whether that driveway is directly pointed to a house across from another driveway. We can't tell what's on the other side of the street based on your map there. It's not showing the delineation.
Yeah, I don't recall. I'll check that.
Okay. Brendan, was there any issue with the slight movement on the existing house driveway? I think you were primarily talking about the proposed driveway for the proposed house, right? The new house?
The relocation of the existing driveway would probably improve that condition somewhat.
Okay. All right, so if you can just give us a feel for where the houses are situated and where the drives are situated on the other side of the street, just so we can see where these driveways are lining up, and then just make sure we meet the setback from the intersection with the other road.
Okay.
Brendan, anything else from a traffic perspective? Okay. Michelle, you want to walk through AKRF
Sure.
items?
When was DEC out there recently? Delineate the wetland, do you know when they were out there?
I have that date. It's probably about, it was right after our last meeting, so I'm going to say it's about 2 months ago.
So we received a letter from DEC on the 24th of August, and then we also received an additional letter today from DEC. And I'm just hypothesizing, and I don't know, maybe you can fill me in on this. I think what happened was initially this showed up as being in a wetland check zone, And it didn't really show on the DEC environmental mapper that there was any actual wetlands on the site, but they say that you should check because obviously the wetland boundaries change, and there was also drainage or stream area that does traverse the site. And I believe, this is just an assumption made by the two different letters, that once they got the information from whoever did the field work, they actually claimed the stream as part of the wetland, whereas previously had just been considered a regulated stream.
Okay.
So that forced the 100-foot buffer on the stream, whereas it might have been only a 50-foot buffer previously. So I think that may have been what happened. And you know, my concern all along, one of the reasons why I wanted DEC to be involved was just the closeness of the stream to the disturbance area, and whether or not, you know, during the disturbance for the driveway, they can avoid actually impacting the adjacent area. Because if they do impact the adjacent area, they would need a permit from DEC to do that. And DEC did also note that I don't know how many trees may have to be removed, if any, for the subdivision, but they did note that there is potential for Indiana bat on the site. So if there's a significant number of trees or a number of trees over 4-inch diameter that have to be removed, they have to.
So there'd likely be a restriction on the time of year that you can remove them.
Right, and actually they're also probably going to require some sort of assessment,
Okay.
judging from the letter.
Is this lot treed right now, or, I'm sorry, is it wooded, or is it grass?
Well, you can see the wooded, the edge of the woods is delineated on the map. And you can see it right around here. There's a little bit right on that.
Okay.
But there are about maybe 3 or 4 trees right here, no real significance, which would have to be removed. But there is probably a little bit right in here. It's not much, but
Okay,
they have to be removed.
all right.
Which is, they're extremely sensitive to bats, I mean, even more than the past few years. So we just need to make sure that we connect that, because they will probably not grant you any further permits, or if you do not deal with them directly on the Indiana bat. So you just need to speak with the wildlife specialist, and I can make the initial phone call, but you would need to see if they will require a habitat assessment for you, because now we're dealing with 2 listed bat species, not just one.
Well, can't we simply on that? I mean, true. Yes, we could go through and do a study.
Well,
Can't we just put restrictions on when you can clear?
I think what Michelle is saying is that it's the purview of the DEC to decide what they will require. They may just require a permit or some restriction on that, but I think it's the DEC that will tell you what they're going to require.
And they may say to you, it's fine if you have the tree restrictions, or they may say to you, we want a habitat assessment before we determine if we just want clearing restrictions or not. And it just depends on how close there are any roost trees or any significant habitat in that location. And also how many trees are being removed. They may not, it's up to them, basically. So those are my main issues, and also that, just the concern about the closeness of the wetland to the disturbance.
And if you didn't get copies of the letters from the DEC, we have them in the planning office. We can make sure that you receive them. So there was an initial letter and then a follow-up letter specifically addressing, I think, the stream that you're referring to. And the first letter did include the
recall the
habitat.
contact person there?
Yeah, Lisa Massey would be who you would want to talk to.
Lisa?
Massey, and I can give you her phone number.
Okay. Why don't you email that to me if you would?
Okay.
And they will circulate it too, so they will probably, they did check off the box that they needed to be informed if any trees were going to be removed.
Okay.
Okay. Is there a way to put the 2 driveways next to each other, or was there a reason that we had to have them separated the way they are? Because I'm wondering if maybe you'd have less clearing or less impact if the 2 driveways were on the same, if the proposed house driveway was flipped to the other side of the house.
I think originally the reason we did it was just to physically just have separation of 2 driveways. And also the other thinking at the time was the location of the septic. We wanted that to be at least 100 feet away. As it was, we ended up sliding it a little bit anyway to accommodate kind of our design from the first time.
100 feet away from?
Well, the septic has to be at least 100 feet away from the wetlands, which it's actually more than
Okay.
that.
Okay.
I mean, nothing short of doing a common driveway, and I don't know whether the...
I wasn't
I really
necessarily
don't wanna-
suggesting
I
that.
really
I was
don't
just
wanna do
asking
that.
whether there was a layout where the two driveways were next to each other, because then you're also you're addressing the issue of possibly being a little bit close to that side road as well.
Mhm.
Okay. Michelle, anything else from your perspective? Okay. Joe, anything we need to cover from engineering?
In the new layout, he did address some of our prior questions, but a few items came up with the representation of the buildable area. I think they're in good shape. It's just, if you look at the definition carefully, you don't need to subtract the buffer. You do subtract the wetland area and the floodplain steep slopes, but the buffer was also taken out, so.
So we were very conservative. Okay.
The buildable area calculation.
Okay.
Um,
Does that need to be corrected, or is it okay because it's conservative?
I think it's okay. If it's,
Okay.
the plan actually shows a higher number, so if they just go with the plan number, it's fine.
Okay.
And he is proposing to make the drainage course, have an easement go through there, which is something we asked that they do. I think that was noted in the original file map, but it probably just never got.
Yeah, and I should have brought that up in my presentation. We show a 40-foot wide drainage easement, and the reason for that, if you go back to, I think, the original file map, they showed it being 40 feet wide, but they did not define the limits of the easement. They just showed something just kind of gerrymandering through the property. So we felt we're going to define it, obviously, by bearing and distance, but we figured just to keep the maps so they coincide, to keep it 40 feet.
Okay.
And it doesn't affect anything we're doing anyway.
Okay. Tom, any concern with the change to the easement? We can just document that as we go through the process?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
The only other thing I'd like to add is I'm not quite sure whether that'll require a floodplain development permit or not. I know it's just a well. We'll have to take a look at the ordinance for that, but just to
Okay.
make you aware, we may have to.
I thought it was in the
It's in the
flood area.
floodplain.
I didn't think is it in the wetland or just the floodplain? Okay. All right. So Scott, you're going to confirm whether or not that permit's
We'll
needed?
take a look at that, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
But typically, even if it requires that, that's just part of the subdivision process, correct?
Right, right.
Okay. Any other questions or comments
Yes.
from?
I'm sorry, the well would be, maybe you just said that the health department's going to look at the well location and where those are placed. And we did.
I was just going to say, if we were trying to put a well in the wetland, that probably would require some type of extraordinary permitting, yeah, but it's not, so that's good. Okay.
As far as grading, I'm just asking to do a cut and fill analysis to check if he's within the 375-yard allowance per lot.
Was there a lot of grading outside of the septic pad?
Actually, nothing for the septic pad, it's just around the house.
Okay.
It
Okay.
seems fairly minor, but it's hard to tell sometimes.
Do you,
based on-
do you think you're around 375 cubic yards, or are you less than that?
I would think we're less, but we'll do the calculation.
Okay. Okay. All right. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on the Fikori two-lot subdivision on Kensington Drive and Dale Road? If you'd like to, I'm going to have you come on up. We have a sign-in sheet over here. We need to capture your names, and then we'll call you up in the order that you sign in. And it's probably hard to see behind the map, but there's just around here at the table, we have a sign-up sheet.
But then we got to get rid of it.
Because from Charlie to me, that's the last thing that DEC is holding. But DEC
Okay, and who's our first signer? Anthony?
Anthony, yes.
That's probably
I'm so sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
Hold on. Michael, come on up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Michael Gentili. Can I give
Sure.
this to you? These are some pictures and slides and things that
Thank you.
I don't have one for everybody, but I have one for
That's fine, we can share.
share. The first picture you see there is Google Earth. And I've circled 2 areas on this that the owner of the property would not be aware of, but those areas flood in time of heavy rain or springtime and also continuous rain. And the northernmost part that you see there where the circle is exactly where the septic system is going to go. The reason I got involved with this is because I saw a backhoe in the property and I asked what they were doing, and they said they were checking the soil for a septic system. And then a little while later there was a gentleman doing a perk test, and I told him, you know, this area floods. And he said, well, I'll make sure I tell the people, you know, that it floods. I was very disappointed when I saw that there was a continuation or for the subdivision, because I figured not being able to put a septic system in would negate that ability.
Do you have any pictures of flooding or any?
Yes, let me, if I may. This is a picture of the house from my angle. Well, should I put it here?
No, you can bring it up to us and we'll send.
This shows the depression on one side of the house, and this shows the depression on the other side of the house.
Okay.
That flood. Now, I can't show you it in flood because this year, from what I understand, we've had like a third the amount of rain that we normally get. So like I said, the owner would not know that this happens. I remember when I bought my house, I've been a resident here for 4 years now, there was something called a picture from Parcel Access, a Dutchess County website, which I went to because I wanted to see if the flood zone showed up. And then I found out that it's not in a flood zone.
Right.
The flood zone on this property is behind the current house and wraps around to where the stream is. And I have a picture of that. And this is Parcel Access. And I spoke with Mr. Bob Wells of the Dutchess County Planning Board, I guess it is.
And I'm sorry, the overlay is?
The overlay is the wetland, I'm sorry, the flood zone. They're Type A and Type E flood zones, 100-year plain flood zones. And that overlay is accurate to within plus or minus 5 feet,
Okay.
according to them. Additionally, oh, by the way, I'm going to be a little out of order from the presentation I had prepared because this chart is not the, I'm sorry, this diagram is not the diagram I got because it added in the flood zones and the wetland. But if I may, I want to point out this line right here,
We can't see what you're pointing at. I'm sorry if you, yeah.
the 100, yeah.
There's the point.
Yeah, yeah. The 100, how does this work? This 100-foot delineation from the stream to that point right there.
And sir, I'm just going to have you come back to the mic for us because, thank you.
This 100-foot DEC delineation to that point right there is not where it should be. The wetlands start here, and 100 foot from there is approximately there. And that puts this SDA within the limits of the wetland. And an Article 24 permit will definitely be required. I spoke with the DEC today, and Ms. McAvoy sent you the latest letter from the DEC that indicates a permit is not necessary, but she had her information based upon charts, and she did not have the information from the biologist that came out to look at this property. When I sent her the email that I got from the biologist, she said that she was speaking with her supervisor this morning, and they will be reissuing the letter specifically stating that Article 24 permits are needed for this SDA here, and the fact that the new well is going to be in the wetland and the other proposed well is in a flood zone will also require Health Department and DEC approvals. Looking at this chart, well, let me go back a second. Like I said, I'm a little out of order because that kind of threw me off.
All right.
The parcel access that I showed you also coincides with FEMA. And this is the FEMA chart for the property. The majority of this property is in a flood zone, and over 2/3 of it actually. And when you consider the wetlands, the stream boundaries, and the flood zones, the maximum buildable area on this lot is 0.623 acres, or 693 acres, which is below the necessary 0.75 acres. And that's documented in a letter from the engineer. I believe it's Morris Associates.
I'm going to just pause you for 1 second and
Sure.
ask our professionals, does the flood zone area need to be removed from the buildable area? I'm aware of the wetlands and the wetland buffer, but does the flood zone area also get removed?
According to the formula, I believe it does.
Just a moment, yeah.
The wetland area, the floodplain area, and steep slopes subtract from buildable areas, but a wetland buffer does not subtract from a buildable area.
Okay, so are we comfortable that the flood zone has been accurately identified and that the wetlands have been accurately identified, or is that something we need to require?
I believe what the issue is, or what I'm hearing, is that he's saying that based on the site visit the DEC did, they may be taking a different wetland.
Yeah, sorry, Michelle.
I
think we're
believe that
missing
what
a
he's
mic.
saying is that based on the DEC visit, they may be taking a different wetland line. Now, we had received a letter on the 24th of August, and then we received one today. And in that letter, it seemed to me, and I've just made an assumption because I have a call into to DEC, but I haven't had a chance to speak with them yet. I made the assumption that what it looked like was that they had taken the stream as part of the wetland, which is why they added the 100-foot buffer on it. I believe what this gentleman is saying is that perhaps they actually have adjusted the wetland boundary, but I don't know that for certain. So we have to, and he's saying that, you're saying that there may be another letter issued from DEC?
Yes, they're sending that out,
Okay.
or they were working on it today.
Okay.
I have an email from Jonathan, I don't remember his last name. He's the biologist.
Jonathan Russell.
Is that it?
Jonathan Russell.
Excellent. He's the biologist that came out, and he indicated that this wetland here...
If you could just point up on the map so everyone can see.
Thank you. This wetland indication here, which is drawn in, by the way, on this diagram, it's not part of it, runs from this point to the back, around the grass, and then again to the back of the property. The reason that I made note of this and contacted the DEC was because the delineation markers from this point to here, the ones that you could see from the road, were removed from the property. I think it was on the 17th of June. Is that the correct date? And I was suspect that as to why they were removed, and that's the reason I contacted the DEC.
Okay.
Let's see.
Okay, so I think we'll make sure that that's addressed and we understand where the wetlands and the flood zones are within the property. Well, if we need to, we can recalculate the buildable
appreciate
area
that.
and the layout.
Right. The formula for, when I heard that this lot was supposed to hold 3 houses. It could be subdivided into 3. I said, that can't be right. And I went back and on the parcel access website, you can do area mapping and it'll actually give you the acreage. And if you take the wetlands and, I'm sorry, the wetlands, and take the flood zones, and take the 100-foot boundary here, add that all up and subtract it from the total, you end up with a number that only allows you to have 1 house on this entire lot, which makes this lot indivisible.
Okay.
Okay?
We'll go back and double check that, and if we receive an additional letter from the DEC, we'll certainly make sure we act upon it.
Right. Additionally, if perchance this 100-foot is overlooked and allowed to have this SDA put here, where the house is going is right against the wetlands and the flood zone. This house would have to be raised because it's in a depression. And in the future, this house would be subject to problems with the septic because the area floods. This house would be inundated with mosquitoes from the wetlands and frogs, and they're only looking at creating a problem here for whoever buys this house in the future. Additionally, last but not least, right here, outside of the woodlands area, is a habitat which would be perfect for the New England cottontail, which is making a resurgence because it hasn't been around for the past 2 years. And this year, on my property, which is across the street, we saw a family. So removing that habitat would also be a problem.
Okay.
To summarize, if I may, the property as it stands.
Sir, I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to hear you if you're not at the mic, if you want to.
The property as it stands is surrounded, or the house as it stands is surrounded by a wetlands here in green. It's also surrounded by flood zone here in blue. It's surrounded by the delineation of 100 foot for the town, which leaves this area as the only buildable area, and it's too small to sustain a subdivision. I'm not an engineer, but it was pretty easy to do the math. And I thank you for your time,
Okay.
and I look forward to hearing
We'll
your
follow
decision.
up. We'll follow up on those things and make sure they're delineated.
And by the way, if you ask anybody from the neighborhood, they'll tell you that those 2 areas flood substantially to the point where you can't even
Does it
walk on
flood
them.
the road, or does it just flood the property
It
itself?
floods the property,
Okay,
right there and right there.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
assume this is runoff,
I'm sorry?
I assume this is runoff from the roads?
No, it's not runoff from the roads. This area here is in a depression, and this area here is also in a depression.
Okay, so that comes from the wetlands, not from the roads?
Not even from the wetlands. When it rains heavily,
It just collects?
it just collects there, sits there, and does not saturate into the ground. And then when it does, the ground is boggy, and you can't even walk on it. Same thing here. It's unfortunate that that's the case, but it is. And as a result, I don't see how an SDA could be possibly placed there.
Okay,
Okay.
because I've got a chunk of my property that does the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when you dig down, you hit clay. Just can't go in. And I was,
I believe that's what's underneath here, clay. It's
okay.
marked on here someplace. One second.
So I know clay underneath and you're doomed. It's there forever.
Sandy clay loam, 1/2 foot to 1.5 feet. Brown clay loam, 1.5 to 6.5 feet. And that doesn't drain.
Sorry, I just wondered.
Yeah. I'm glad I didn't have to show you all my pictures, so.
Do you
Thank
need
you.
any of these back, or can we keep them for our record?
You can keep them. As a matter of fact, you can have all these pictures that I have here.
Okay, thank
If you
you.
want to refer to them.
Sure. Thank you very much.
You're more than welcome.
Who's the next person?
Now we have Anthony.
Now we have Anthony, I'm sorry. We have to call you in order for our minutes. so
Yes, of
thank you
course.
for bearing with us.
Well, thank you for the chance to speak. I'm not sure how this works. Okay. I actually own the property on 7 Dale Road, which is adjacent to this property from the back over here.
Okay.
When I heard about the subdivision, I was concerned because there is a small pond on my property over here, and next to that pond is my well. And I know the history of the property. I've been there since 2003, and I know that it never drains. So I thought an extra septic system there wouldn't drain well, could potentially drain down into the pond and then maybe into my well eventually. So I have a lot of concern about that. I didn't come here with anything prepared, but I mean, that's my
That's
main
okay.
concern.
Okay.
My main concern is the drainage in the property and also that affecting my well, which is right over here.
We do have a letter returned to us on August 18th from the County of Dutchess Department of Health, and they are looking at the septic system. They have to review it and make sure
Okay.
that they think it works. And by works, it means will it drain properly? Will it not impact surrounding areas?
Mm-hmm.
Is it appropriately set back from wells and that sort of thing? So that's typically their purview to review the septic systems.
Okay.
But they are looking at it, and they did give us a letter back that said that they wanted to make sure that we knew they were still looking at it and had not yet reviewed it.
Okay. The other it's not a concern, but it's part of the character of that neighborhood is that there are big lots. You know, I have 5.8 acres over here. I know this is a 4-acre lot, and that's part of the charm of the town and part of the charm of that subdivision, that we have large lots. And it's a shame to see them just cut up and made smaller and smaller and smaller. So that's another concern. I feel that it betrays the character of the development and the town as well. So,
Okay,
and that's it. Thank you.
great, thank you.
Now we have Chet.
Chet?
Okay, he needs to pronounce his last name there.
My name is Chet Jukowski. I live directly across the street from this piece of property here.
Okay.
It's rather interesting that Mr. Martin made a comment before about removing the old driveway. I've been involved in that already. Really? Last winter, the house was owned by the bank,
Can I
I
just
think.
have you come just a little bit closer?
Oh, I'm
to
sorry.
the-
Okay. I think last winter, the house was owned by the bank, and they hired somebody to go ahead and plow the driveway. This fellow plowed all the snow and the gravel and the road salt and pieces of the driveway and dumped it on my property, which I had to dispose of, so I've already been involved. Two other items
I just
here.
wanted
I'll
to
be
note
brief.
That's a
I'm sorry?
That's a prior owner that you're speaking of?
The bank was the owner.
Okay,
It was. I don't know, you have to ask the
Oh.
present owner.
that's fine.
I want to tell you a little bit about the neighborhood, and then I'm going to directly focus on this problem. I moved here in 1979, living right across the street at number 52. The lot next to me, which is now number 50, was completely vacant. It was about a foot or two lower than my property. Eventually, the builder that owned it put a 3-bedroom raised ranch and decided to put in a septic system. And the way he did it is he built up the property. He really built it up. There was a parade of trucks that came in, 20 yards apiece. I estimated several hundred cubic yards of fill were put in there. And it worked for a while. There was a family of 5 there with 3 kids, and you can imagine what the laundry was like. They moved in sometime around 82. Sometime around 84, 85, there was a problem. I would go out to the street and I could smell the sewage from the leach field. It was pretty strong, and it would happen in the spring, in the April, May timeframe. I complained to the owner. He didn't want to hear about it. And we didn't speak very much after that. I went to the health department. I said, what can you do? This is not right. They asked me, do you see a flow? I said, you're talking about a stream of liquid coming out? He said, no, but I can smell it. I know that leach field isn't working right. Well, a couple of years after that, my neighbor decided to redo his septic system, and he fixed it, and it's been okay ever since.
Okay.
Now, across the street, there's two sections of that property that are of interest. To the south of the building, the house that's there now, you'll see a nice lawn there, and there's a little stream that may not be indicated on this map. But the southern part of that property gets extremely wet in the spring, and there's standing water there. And I can tell you, they don't cut the grass from April through, I guess, early July, because their rider mower gets stuck. It's wet. Now, if you go into the northern side of the property, it's the same situation. You'll see grass there in the spring, a foot high, because they could not cut it. Okay? So I'm very concerned about this situation. Now, it's where they're going to put the septic system that concerns me, because this is the area I just said was very, very wet. Now, I did a little homework, and I went to the NOAA website in Albany, but actually I have the data for Poughkeepsie. And this is all of the rain that happened between, or the precipitation that occurred between February and August of this year. I've got all the data tabulated here in a chart for you. I did the calculations. And these are the actual printouts for Poughkeepsie, not Albany, but Poughkeepsie. I've highlighted the rain precipitation, the amount of rain, and the departure from normal. Over this period of time, and you've noticed, I'm sure, it's been rather dry, average rainfall was between 40 and 50% below normal, okay? Now, they did the percolation tests, I think in May. And if you're going to do a percolation test on a wet area, this is the time to do it. I'm sure it passed, but I understand it was not by very much. So if they show you data, I'd be very suspicious, because it's taken at a time when it's not normal precipitation. So what I was going to ask and conclude simply this. First of all, this area to be subdivided, okay, is really not suitable for a placement of a septic system where they're indicating it right now. That's only 10 feet from the road, by the way. If they fill it in like they did next door and they make it higher, it's going to wind up going out into the street, I'm sure. And again, the other item I wanted to point out is the percolation tests that were performed in May. I don't think they're valid, because they were done in an extremely dry time of the year. So I have a cover letter here. I have all the climatological data and my summary sheet and my calculations. I'll submit them here, okay?
Great.
And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else who would like to speak?
Can I ask a question?
Of this gentleman?
Yes,
Sure.
please. Sir?
Sir, can we just,
I'd just like to ask you a question.
Oh, sure, I'm sorry.
The perk test was done in May.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, because it matters. I remember May as being fairly wet coming into there.
They,
Whereas now, since the last 5-6 weeks, it's been dry as, that's why I was asking when it was done and what the rain
I think
was.
this whole year's been fairly dry.
Yeah,
June was wet.
I have the data for every month here.
okay.
Okay, on my summary sheet for May, using the numbers that are listed on the
I'm sorry, I don't mean to make you go through
report.
this. I'm just curious.
No, it was about 55% below normal.
Okay.
Now, let me give you the numbers here. Let's see, here we go. We go to May. This is a summary for the month of May. Precipitation, normal for May, is supposed to be 4.14 inches. What the observed value was, 1.97 inches, a reduction of 2.5 inches easily. So it's, the memory, I'm not relying on memory here. I'm giving you hard data from NOAA.
Thank you. I just didn't know what, thank you.
Thank you for asking.
Do we have anyone else who'd like to speak this evening? Do we have anyone else on our list first? I should have asked. No. Okay. Anyone else who'd like to speak? Okay, Ernie, why don't you come on back up? John, I'm trusting you're keeping an eye on your pointer.
No, it's gone.
So Ernie, we've heard a couple of concerns this evening on the flood area, the nature of the property, and the wetland areas. So do you have any information on when the last time the wetlands were delineated, and are the flags still out there? Or specifically positioned on your map as far as the wetland areas
To
are?
my knowledge, the flags are still there.
Okay.
No
Well,
flags there at all.
let me,
No flags there at all. No, there are flags along the
okay, I'm sorry. So what I want to make sure we do, whether or not they're out at the property specifically, are they delineated on your map the way they're supposed to appear? I just want to make sure that we've correctly captured the wetland area.
Did somebody survey the flags after the
Yes.
DEC put them on?
Yeah.
And when was that survey done, do you know?
Doesn't have the data on there, but I can get it.
And do you also have the signed map that the DEC?
No.
Are they supposed to be providing that to you?
They will do that. Typically, what we do on that is once we get the map in final shape, we bring them the final Mylar.
Okay, but they will usually sign their delineation to make sure that it's accurate to what they actually
Right.
did, and they didn't provide that to you yet?
I
Sometimes it
haven't
happens.
even provided them a map, so.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So I think we want to make sure that the wetland delineation as it appears and the buffer as it appears on your map are accurate. And then there was also some question about the flood zone area and that the parcel access and,
Well, all I can say on that, this is a studied area, and if you look on FEMA, they actually, like sometimes you look at the FEMA maps and they have just zone A's. They show a wetland, but they don't show an elevation. On this area, they actually show a floodplain elevation, a base flood elevation. So all base flood elevations are based on NABD 88. So via GPS, what we do is we get oriented. This survey is based on NABD 88 datum. So the topo that you see there is the same datum as the FEMA datum. And then where the 225 is, we took that off the FEMA maps, and that's how we define that area. Now, I'll be the first to admit, if you go look at general flood maps, you look at floodland maps, or even if you look at county maps, they will show floodplains, they'll show wetlands, but unless it's actually, I guess, either computer delineated, that's what you have to go by.
okay. So Joe, have we done any validation of the FEMA data against this map, just to make sure that we've got all of the zones delineated correctly?
Yes, I'm actually holding a firm map. It's a smaller version of the firm map for this project. And it shows, like Ernie says, the 225 elevation. There's a cross-section that was part of the flood study that pretty well hits right through the property. So I think his 225 contour is basically right on, according to what I'm seeing with the firm map.
So the depression areas towards the front of the property that several folks referred to, are they above or below the 225? Can you tell from what you're looking at there?
Well, there's a difference. I mean, this is showing a 100-year flood event. What I believe they're talking about is more of a seasonal inundation, not really tied to a 100-year event, but more of a intermittent flooding. Like that sounds like it comes more from surface drainage from the roads.
But wouldn't that be a
not from the
concern if we're
streams.
locating a septic system in an area that we know has flooding at certain times of the year?
Yeah, it would be.
But that, if I may just interject, that area is being graded and filled too.
Yeah, you're going to build an up septic system.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
speaking strictly now of the base flood elevation, the contour that runs through that site right now is about 230. The base flood elevation, I think, is 225. So just that area is above the base flood elevation. So there's no effect, I think what I'm saying, I think what Joe is saying, that there's not a backwater from the floodplain that comes up from the creek up through that stream into that area. But that area, there are pockets there that will in fact, and I would agree with you, John, they probably do in fact flood, but we're regrading that area. So the idea is to keep that area so you don't have just an isolated pocket. So
Okay,
that's all I would add to that.
So what is the elevation of the road?
232.
Okay, and what will the elevation be of the septic that you're going to fill and build up?
I think we're showing that area about
Pretty
231.
much level. I think it's level.
231.
Yeah,
It
maybe a
ranges
little below
from,
the road.
I think, 231 to 232.
Okay. And that's bringing it up how many feet from where it is right now?
Well, the area at the house is being brought up. Right now, the contour running through the house is about 229, and as I reported earlier, the basement elevation is about 231.5, so that's, what, 2.5?
Okay, and in the septic area, what's the contour in the septic area?
That ranges, because it's on a grade, but that
Okay.
ranges from about 231 to 232.
Well, that's the top of
That's the
septic.
finished septic. I mean, where is it right now? Do you have the existing condition?
Seems like it's about 230 across the front lawn area.
Okay, just a moment. I'll call for additional comment in just a moment. All right.
230 is the top of the septic? The grade level
Well,
of the
we're talking
wetland?
about existing grade or proposed?
Yes, proposed.
Okay.
The final grade,
It's not flat, so it ranges from
Right, it's
about
gonna be something like-
231 to 232.
but the actual septic pipes are down 4 feet from there?
No, they're only down, the pipes are 12 inches below grade.
Just 12, okay.
Now, the
Michelle?
septic tank, the bottom of the septic tank would be deeper, but the lines themselves, the absorption fields, that's usually about typically it's should be 1 foot below grade.
Okay. Michelle, I know we're hearing that there may be some additional concern or additional letter from the DEC. Can I just ask that you follow up and coordinate with Ernie on anything that we need to understand or adjust with the plan, not just the wetlands, but also for the habitat and the
Yes.
species? Was it the cottontail? I think somebody said cottontail? Is that also on the endangered list, or, okay?
It's on the state, and I think maybe even the county endangered species list.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
rare, it's very hard to determine whether or not it's a New England cottontail, because apparently there's a lot of species that look just like it, but the New England cottontail is a species of concern, definitely, in the area.
Okay. All right. So if you can just follow up and make sure that we understand what the DEC may require. And then, Tom, I know that normally this board doesn't consider the placement of the septic and that sort of thing because it's not our purview, it's the health department purview. Is there anything that this board needs to do with the health department based on the feedback we're receiving?
Well, I think in the engineering final review with the floodplain and everything, they'll certainly pass on any information they want to know.
Okay. All right. So if you could, I'll call for additional comment in just a second, then we'll have you sign in, and yes, absolutely, you can ask questions. All right. And Michelle, is there anything else that we need to do based on the feedback you heard right now as far as the DEC goes or the other concerns?
Well, I mean, certainly we can go out and also check the delineation, but I think the first step would be to talk to DEC, make sure that they have this latest map with the wetland shown on it, because I believe originally, and the reason why I requested that we circulate to DEC and that Ernie contact DEC was because I wanted to make certain that the wetland check zone was as presented on the map. And it looks like they did make some changes, so we just need to make sure that what's represented on the map is what it represents the changes that they made in the field and shows the actual delineation. And they should have...
So it's possible those flags were moved because the DEC moved them? Is that what we're saying?
I don't know why. The DEC should have flagged the wetland, and typically the flags, they leave them in the field once they flagged it. Sometimes, because they're temporary flags, they don't always stay on the trees. It just depends.
Okay.
Sometimes people remove them.
Okay.
But the DEC, the person that delineated the wetland, should be able to look at a map and know if it makes sense where the flags were. And a licensed surveyor, would have gone out and picked up those flags typically and shown the proper representation of their location on a map.
Okay.
And we can certainly go out and verify that if we need to. So the first step is I'm going to contact DEC.
Okay.
And then if that's if we can't get proper resolution of it, we can send out somebody to delineate the wetland and confirm that we
Okay.
agree with it.
Okay. But Ernie, you said you did have that done. You had a licensed surveyor out there that plotted everything, so you should be reflecting what the DEC flagged
Yes.
when they went out. Okay. Okay, thank you. I think we had a couple other folks who wanted to offer comments, so what I'll do is, sir, since you've already signed in, I'll have you come up first, and then, sir, if you want to sign in, we'll pull you next. Yeah.
Sign in first?
Yes, we'll have you sign in, and we'll bring up the gentleman that's already spoken first.
I concede that this area that's drawn in here as to the location of the wetlands is approximately correct. But like I said, it wasn't part of the diagram it's drawn in. My main problem with that is that this 100-foot indication for a DEC delineation, they call it, I'm sorry, they call it the 100-foot adjacent area, should not be from this stream to this line. It should be from the edge of the wetland this way, and approximately 100 feet brings it right there, which makes this an Article 24 permit requirement.
So
for
what
that.
we're going to do is I'm asking that our town planner has a conversation with the DEC and ensure that the wetland delineation is properly reflected, which will also then make sure that the buffer is properly reflected, and we'll go from there.
I think that's perfect.
Okay.
I have the email from Jonathan Russell.
Okay,
I'll submit that to you.
great, thank you.
Indicates that he did do the marking and that this is an approximate location of where they were. That's
Okay.
fine. As far as elevation is concerned, parcel access has a topography, and I'll give this to you.
Sure.
It shows that through the property, the 225-foot line is approximately here, like that, and the 230 line is approximately like this, and the area that we're concerned about that floods is in between 225 and 230. It's above 225, but below the 230. To get this area up to the street level, I'm sure would require much more than 375 yards of dirt. Plus, they'd have to increase, according to the current diagram, they're increasing this area, and that would require a lot more than 375 feet of dirt. So filling this area is not a solution. It's a problem. For the net density report or the unconstrained land calculations, if I may, I have 3 sheets here. This shows the area of flood zone.
Okay.
This shows the area of wetlands. This shows the area for the 100-foot clearance. The calculation comes out to, in my calculation, using parcel access, 1.33 acres of usable land. Can I give that to you?
And just, again, we'll be looking back at the actual FEMA
Yes.
maps to make sure that the flood zone is labeled correctly and et cetera.
FEMA tends to match Dutchess County parcel access.
Okay.
They tend to mirror image each other. One last note, if I may. Since I could not get in touch with Jonathan Russell last week, I contacted his supervisor, Mr. Brian Drum, at the DEC. And Mr. Drum advised me that, and I'm going to quote him, Article 24 does not eliminate the possibility of an SDA within 100 feet of a wetlands, but it does call for a permit. Usually, when no alternative exists and someone is looking to replace a septic system, a permit could be granted. Usually when someone is just trying to subdivide a property and add a new SDA, the permit is usually denied. Unfortunately, I don't have his email. I could not email him, but I did email Ms. McAvoy, who wrote the letter, and I asked her to forward the emails to him so he would have a copy of it.
Okay.
The reason I came here and the reason I got involved was because I was trying to be a good neighbor. I wanted to tell the people that own this property that you can't put an SDA here because it floods. I think where we are right now, the owner of this property, being a good neighbor, should just withdraw his request to subdivide. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Sir, if you want to come up.
My name is John Fumo. I live at 2 Bonnie Lane in the subdivision. My question was, is the drainage from the highway, the roadway, you got 3 or 4 catch basins, is that well defined, or is it just sheeting across the property?
No, that drainage that's there, I think there's 2 or 3 pipes that come across that road intersection, and it's from a larger wetland or drainage area
It's
further
from the
to the
hill,
east.
from the
Yes,
hill.
and that, what comes from the northeast of that site comes across that site through backyard drainage swales and pipes and things of that nature, comes into that intersection, and then it goes across that intersection
Can you
via
just
pipes.
use the, I'm sorry, can you just use the pointer and just show us the areas that you're talking about?
Yeah, so what you have here, you can see some of the drainage
Catch
that's here.
basins.
So you've got drainage that comes in this way, and you've got drainage that comes in this way. And that
Okay.
comes from drainage that's up out over in this area that comes across.
Okay.
So.
And
is
it's
it-
migrating through your
so-
property, it's migrating through your property in what way? Sheeting across the property, or are there actual culverts running under the wetland? Do we know?
There's a culvert underneath.
Okay, I'm sorry, sir. We have to catch your name for the minutes if you want to offer comment, otherwise Ernie can answer, that's fine.
Now,
What happened?
Hey, Michelle, can you just tap the laptop for us?
It had enough.
now there's,
Sorry about that.
in Dale Road and in Kensington here, there's a closed drainage system here, meaning you've got piping and catch basins, things of that nature.
Running along the roadways.
And what it does, it comes
Okay.
across this intersection, and then it discharges into the swale. Once it hits the swale, then it runs overland through the swale. There's not a pipe
Okay.
under the swale.
So
Okay,
it's
and is this the
defined.
40-foot?
Yes.
There is a defined
Yes.
channel. Because I was thinking maybe the problem with a lot of the flooding may be that the water just was sheeted right across the property because it was a vacant lot. They may not have channeled the water to the back.
This swale this floodplain that you see here is actually it's caused from a hydraulic backup from the stream, the creek that's down here, and goes back to here. That's what this is caused by. What you have in this area here, and what you have down in here, that's localized because the grade, in fact, is low.
So Ernie, where you're showing, where you just pointed out the swale where all the culverts are
Right
kind of
here.
discharging into your property, is this where the 40-foot easement is that you're talking about?
Yes, the 40-foot easement would go from the intersection of this street and this street, and then would run the center line, approximate center line,
following the
which
swale?
would be that swale.
Okay, and so in the event that we would need to repair that, or in the event that there was some unusual event causing flooding, the town would have an easement to be able to get in and do repairs?
They have an easement now based on the file map. I don't know if it was ever officially dedicated, but by this application, we plan on officially dedicating it to the town.
Okay, so sir, it doesn't sound like the discharge from the culverts is what's causing the ponding at the front of these lots. I think
Well,
that water's
well-
running to the back of the property.
Well, you see what happens is that it's all paved roads and they got curbs there. So they are definitely channeling the water into this property. See,
Into the
and that's why
culverts,
my
right.
concern was whether it's just a matter of sheeting it across or do they have a defined channel for it?
I think what we're saying is the water is being directed, yes, curbed from the roads, but being directed into culverts that would then still discharge
Well,
out.
No, it's open channel, it's not culvert.
It's an open channel.
It's an open channel.
Sorry, okay.
It's a ditch line, basically.
But it's discharging into your property, into a swale that's moving to the back of your property up on that side as opposed to towards the front of the property. Okay,
All right,
okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
And just one other thing I just want to add. I know gentleman here, I forgot his name. He was mentioning that the wetland is here. This line that's shown on the map is actually the edge of the wooded area.
No.
Well, that's what our...
The wooded area is delineated on your diagram.
Yeah.
The green line delineates the wetland.
No.
What?
No. The green line on this map is the edge of the woods.
Can you just show us up on the large map so we can see what you're discussing?
If you follow this line right through here, that's the edge of the woods. Everything to the west of that line is woods. Everything to the east is either open space or it's the house.
Okay.
If you drive by the house right now, you'll see lawn area here, you'll see some lawn area here, you'll see a lawn area behind the house, and then behind that is the wooded area, and that's what we show here. The blue area shown on our map, we have the wetland here, and then we show as I think a solid line, and then 100 foot from that is the adjacent area,
Okay.
which is right along the edge of this driveway right here.
Okay. And that's what we're going to have the DEC double check that. We'll take care of looking at that between now and the next time we come back for this one. And Michelle, again, I'm just looking at you because you're going to coordinate for us, but yeah. So Ernie, we'll confirm that your lines are accurate. If there's any adjustments to be made, we'll make them before we have you back.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Any other comment from the public this evening? Okay. Okay. There's a few things we need to follow up on. We need to make sure that your delineations are correct, so I want to adjourn this public hearing. Michelle, do you have a sense of how long it will take to get some of these questions answered and resolve the questions on the delineation with the DEC?
The first thing I'll do is, Ernie, if you could send me an electronic copy of the map that I can send to DEC, this latest map, and I'll send it to DEC when I speak with them tomorrow.
Okay. Okay.
And then I don't know how long it'll take them to verify. Sometimes it takes them not very long, and sometimes it takes them a while.
Okay. So, Ernie, in the meantime, you're going to confirm, again, the locations of the driveways and the houses on the opposite side of the street.
Yes.
Scott, you're going to confirm whether or not a flood development permit is needed. We're going to confirm the grading is within the 375 yards. I think that's exclusive of the septic, correct? It's going to be just around the house, okay. And then we're also going to work with the DEC and the FEMA maps just to make sure that the lines delineated on the plan are accurate with regard to those with the DEC for the wetlands and with FEMA for the floodplain. Bear with me, I'm just reading back through my notes. Michelle, we also had a mention of the species and the time of construction for the bats, and I'm not sure about habitat for the cottontail. I'm assuming that check was already made because it didn't appear in the initial response, but...
Correct.
Okay. So I think, given those follow-ups and knowing we just need that additional information and these confirmations, do we want to adjourn out to the first meeting in October? That gives you about a month to resolve? Or is that a concern? Because I don't have a sense of whether the DEC is, 2 days or 2 months. You gotta.
It's sort of hit or miss, so we can certainly try. And then if we're not getting resolution from them, I could send somebody out from my office to also walk the wetland line and see if they can confirm that it follows this relatively. Okay. All right. Ernie, does that work for you? It would be the first meeting in October, October 6th?
October 6th, okay.
Okay. So are there any other questions or comments from board members before we adjourn the public hearing?
One thing is to make sure we do that cut fill analysis.
We said that, yeah, the
Okay,
grading
got it.
analysis. Okay. Anything else? Okay. All right, so do I have a motion to adjourn the public hearing to the October 6th meeting?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. So I want to thank the members of the public who came out. What you're hearing tonight is that we'll continue this discussion on October 6th. So you're more than welcome to come back and hear the continuing discussion. We'll hopefully have some of the answers to the delineations at that time. Ernie, thank you very much. Okay, the next item on our agenda tonight is a discussion for the Foster Road Professional Building and Maselli Site Plan on Foster Road and Route 82. Michelle, can we just see if Al is here?
I didn't even see Al.
I
I
didn't
didn't
see
see
him
him.
either.
No, he's here.
Is he?
Yep.
He's sleeping.
Taking a nap.
There he is.
Pam, I'm going to pass these down to you. This is the information that the gentleman provided to us for our records. Whenever you're ready, we're good.
Okay. We were here 2 weeks ago, and thank you for allowing me to expedite the process and get on this meeting this evening. There were a number of comments and concerns by the board and the board's consultants when we last met 2 weeks ago. All of you probably have some sort of a revised narrative and a lengthy letter explaining the changes that we made, along with the site plans I'm sure you have before you for the Dr. Sinha project.
Okay. Give us a second. We're just getting
Sure. Yeah, let's try that. I'm sorry, that's probably, we'll try the next one. Okay. That looks good. So if you like, I'll go through all the changes if
Great.
you want.
Yep.
For those who haven't gone through the memo, one of the biggest concerns was creating a pedestrian walkway in the rear parking area on the Maselli parcel so that pedestrians did not have to walk in the middle of the parking lot, so to speak, to get to building 1 or building 2. So we created a 5-foot striped macadam, same level as the parking area. So basically, we widened the parking lot 5 feet, again, with striped a walkway with some signage suggesting that there's only pedestrian traffic that can go in that area. The board's consultants had also mentioned, in order to increase some parking perhaps, they suggested we minimize the size of the spaces perhaps to get another space here or there, which we did in the rear, picked up net 1 parking space in the back by reducing the spaces down from my original 10 by 20 to 9 by 18. There was a discussion about on the west side, on the south side of the dead-end parking lot on the Maselli property, so that would be the parking extension all the way to the right. There was a concern about the landscaping buffer that we had created with all the pine trees there.
Can we hand you the pointer so that you can point at what you're... It's just easier for us as you're talking.
Right there, right in that area there. We had a series of coniferous trees there, again, as a landscape buffer. There was a question about snow, snow piling in the wintertime, so we modified the planting, if you will, in the area. We just spread the planting away from the center, and we created an area so that snow could be pushed perhaps at the end of the parking lot. So that was a change that we had made.
Okay.
Another change that we had made, although we didn't discuss, this originally was where I'm pointing, I guess that would be the south, north, the west side of the parking extension. We originally had that as a concrete curb. Everything we're doing, all the parking extensions, if you will, is totally encapsulated by new concrete curbing. We changed that from concrete to a blacktop, if you will, curb, asphalt curb, in anticipation of perhaps someday expanding the parking, and rather than ripping out the concrete curbs, we put asphalt in that one strip abutting the pedestrian walkway.
Okay.
There was a question was brought up about handicap spaces, just to make sure that we have enough. And when we originally did our site plan, I don't know if it was our design, whether it was the board's request or the doctor's request originally, but we have 3 times the number of parking spaces that we really need. With this new square footage, we need 3, I believe, and we have currently on site 8 handicap parking spaces, 4 in front of each building.
Okay.
The parking, small parking area between Building 1 and the Maselli residence, if you will, there was a little green area which I kept, if you will, between the old parking and the new parking. And there was some discussion here whether, do you really need the green there? We can pick up another space. And my response was, well, I like the green, but I gave up the green and we picked up another parking space. So now we have continuity right along that building there with parking, old and new, melding together. So I eliminated this little parking, that little green area there.
Okay.
But on the opposite side, I have a transformer, so I couldn't do it on both sides of the road, of that parking area there. So the transformer is there, so that remains green with a little transformer, electrical transformer there. The dumpster area was talked about. Nobody liked my my idea of my little angled dumpster area, but again, I did...
Al, could try to stay by the mic for us, because we can't hear you as you start to walk away from it.
That's fine. I did meet with, in the field, we had discussed it with rail karting prior to the last meeting, and I physically went out there with, I guess one of the gentlemen who goes out in the field, a guy by the name of Joe Fulton, and we ran over the plan, we went over everything, and he saw no problem with having that dumpster relocated at that angular location where we show it there. To the point that we basically said, when that area is, that 30 by 30 area is designated, or 20 by 26 area is designated, we would literally go out there, royal karting, myself, and lay it out to make sure that everything works. He'd literally bring a truck there just so that everything is positioned fine, but he had no problem with where we have the
Did you look at trying to move this between the 2 buildings? Because that's what we had asked you to look at and to try to do, because we had complaints from a neighbor that said that this wasn't maintained well. Now you're putting it at an angle where you're causing some little areas where it's going to be pretty easy to pile stuff up next to a dumpster as opposed to in a dumpster. So I'm still not in favor of an angled receptacle, and I also thought we were going to try to move it between the 2 buildings.
Yeah,
So it's more accessible to both buildings, potentially accessible in the future to your other lot. I just think having it way out in the back there isn't necessarily the best location.
The only place that I could locate it in this little dead-end area would be literally at the end of the parking area, adjacent to the Maselli residence. And my opinion was that rather than disturb Mrs. Maselli, I keep the dumpster in the back there because this would be more of a nuisance. That would be my only accessibility, would be straight on. I can't make any turns 90 degrees to try to get a dumpster by eliminating a parking space. It's impossible. So the truck would literally come forward, and again, I'd lose probably a couple of spaces, which is fine, so we back off on the square footage. I was more concerned about the dumpster being right next to that house.
Well, you may
Why
lose a
can't you
couple
go to
spaces
the-
there, but you'd gain a couple spaces up where the current location is, so
Well,
I think you'd
suppose
probably
that's-
wash
I suppose
out.
that's a wash. I'm 10 feet away from a residence here. I'm probably 100-plus feet from any residences there. Irregardless of what may be perceived about dumpster overflow or anything like that, that's an enclosed dumpster area currently, and it will be enclosed. So it's not like garbage is being strewn all over an unenclosed dumpster area. So,
Al?
yes.
Why can't you put it on the other side of that lot?
Where would that be now?
No, not there. You were originally talking, but next to the residence.
Right.
I'm saying the opposite end of that lot.
Well, you know, I did talk to be honest with you, when I was out there physically with the Royal Karting guy, we literally talked about creating, where my pointer is going there, perhaps the dumpster located there. And I thought it was too much in your face.
What we're trying to do is to make it more centrally located between the buildings.
But it's not a problem now, so why are we trying to create a problem? If it's not a problem for the dumpster,
I
why
believe
is
we
it a
have a
problem
letter
for
on
you guys?
file that says it was a problem.
who said it was a problem?
There is a letter on file
Well,
from a neighbor stating it was an issue.
we have a lot of letters from that neighbor
Plus,
with a lot of
keep in mind,
issues.
You know, that other building's partially vacant, or not quite a bit vacant, and you may also want to ultimately fit the upstairs out, so I'm sure that the dumpster works well now because Dr. Sinha is occupying the building closest to it, but you got to look at once this is fully occupied, I mean, it does make sense to try to get it more centrally located, if you can.
That building is fully occupied right now.
Fully right now?
Yes, building number one, not the second floor, but the first floor is 100% occupied, always has been.
Oh, it always has not been, but, okay.
Well, I mean, again, there have been tenants in and out of there. Yes, Dr. Sinha's in the back building.
When I came out, there was a vacancy there.
Yeah. They go in and out for whatever reason in the front there.
Maybe because they can't get to the dumpster. I'm sorry, you kind of left yourself wide open for that one.
I mean, again, I went over with the doctor, we went over with Royal, nobody seemed to have a problem distance-wise, and again, we talked about locating it a little
Let me
bit
ask you
further
this.
to the left.
In the prior meeting, we talked about, we wanted to get more footage upstairs, so would you commit to keeping the additional square footage upstairs on the building closest to that dumpster?
No, I want the latitude to
Well,
put
then you
my...
got to address their concern.
I'm sorry?
No, go ahead.
Well, what's the
Well,
question? Yes, go ahead, Jason.
I was talking about putting the dumpster, you were originally just showing it next to the family dwelling
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Go straight across the other end of that lot.
Right
Right
there.
there. Why can't it go there?
Oh, jeez. I don't think, would you guys really want to see the smack in your face, the back end of a dumpster right along
Well, you won't
Foster
see the
Road?
back end of a dumpster, you'll
won't.
see
You
nice.
see
But you said it was an
nice-
enclosure.
Very
Nice enclosed area.
I don't, to my opinion, I think those are one of the things that you want to hide, the dumpster enclosure, however beautiful it is, or whatever beautiful ones that they're building nowadays. I totally disagree from a planning point of view. I don't want to drive around the corner and see that dumpster enclosure smack along Foster Road. I think
Michelle,
that's,
can you come up with some nice landscaping?
irregardless, I think that's bad plan.
Maybe not at the end of the lot next to the residence, but what about angled in towards the end of that lot with, you know, the last couple of parking spaces in between the buildings? Plus, you have these two buildings, plus you have to consider at some point in time, the residence is going to become part of the development. whether
Yes.
it's that building or another building, and now again, you have another building that has to
A
be
building.
serviced by a dumpster.
I'll put another dumpster enclosure, if and when that time comes that I use the Maselli residence for anything else. I think there are so many issues here, and we're getting hung up on the dumpster, my goodness. It's been there forever.
Okay, what are the other
It's not an issue.
Well, I think regardless of its current location, I am not in favor of having it at an angle. I think it just leaves too much open to have things piled on either side of it where there's edges of curbing and things like that and grass area. I think you need to have it contiguous and in line with the parking spaces. And I would like to know that you've done an analysis of how often the pickup is going to happen and that the dumpster enclosure is a sufficient size that we're not going to have anything piling up outside or around that area.
I don't know if we ever had anything piled outside the existing enclosure. I think part of the complaints, and I don't have the letters in front of me, suggested that the garbage was piling up higher, and it was higher than the 6-foot concrete block enclosure that we have currently.
Okay.
Well,
So,
we could
so
check it.
again, either the size is too small, or you need a large, or you need more frequent pickup. So how are we addressing?
But how many letters have we received recently, though? That letter goes back several years, doesn't it? That was at the beginning when we were still fighting over lighting and.
If I'm not mistaken, I think, was it about a year ago? I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me.
We have a letter, what, a week old?
2014.
We have a new letter.
You have another letter? Okay.
August 26th, we have a letter.
It's the same letter.
with the-
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Al, if I remember right, remember you coming here and saying, yes, the garbage was piled up and it's all been cleaned up now. That's what I
But
remember you
it's
saying.
July of 2014 was the original letter with us.
So at one point, it was piled up and
Thank you.
visible with cardboard boxes, I believe, at the time.
Absolutely, and I can't imagine that in any office building that there may be an occasion where there's a delivery of a desk or a chair or this or that. It's not ongoing, guys. It's not a situation where constantly it's overrun with garbage. It just isn't.
But it has
So,
happened.
so you have a
sure.
concrete block enclosure built there right now,
Absolutely, 100%.
and you're proposing to take that down and rebuild it at
That's
an
correct.
angle?
That's correct.
I don't understand the reasoning why.
Why?
Does your turn
You
not,
have to remove it and put it back.
I have to
Why not put it back in the spot? It makes the most sense. What's the resistance for that? Like, put it in the lot that you're developing next to the residence.
Put it at a kitty corner the way you have it, but tuck it in that new parking area.
Use your name design.
I don't have enough of a swing because in the back, I have about 35 feet of swing area for my truck, literally. And I only have.
Al, I just need to keep you by the mic because we have a hard time hearing you when you step away from it.
That's fine. I mean, if you guys want to locate it, I'll locate it adjacent to Maselli's house at the dead end, and it's over and done with. Period. Period, that's it. I'm not going to argue about it, and if you don't want to put it there, I'll eliminate a couple of spaces, we'll put them in the back, and I'll relocate the dumpster between the two buildings, dead end, just as it is now, but instead of in the back, in the middle, and that's what we'll do.
Okay. And if that's at an angle, I think that's fine in that location.
It's
I
not,
think
it
that makes
can't,
sense.
there's not enough room at an angle.
Okay.
That's fine. Okay, not a problem. Moving ahead, we're currently finalizing the water usage and its impact on the existing septic with the health department. Still don't have a letter yet.
Okay.
We're way under the water and the septic design, but that's subject to the health department telling us that. I revised the narrative. Hopefully the narrative now perhaps makes a little bit more sense
Yes.
than it did previously, so hopefully I didn't screw that up again. We just go on further just to reiterate that even though we showed a future phase of what's something we may or may not do in the future, that this site plan is for what you see right here. Anything we plan to do in the future, phase 2, 3, 4, needs to come back before the planning board.
But you're confirming that right now you have enough parking spaces to use 2,000 square feet
That's
in the
correct.
second story of the buildings. And you'll work with the building department, Scott, if you're amenable to that, and he'll decide which 2,000 square feet he's using. He may split it between the two buildings.
He had a caveat, if he uses the other building, he's got to gut the first one.
No, that's true. I need 2,000 square feet, and paragraph 11 here says that I'm including, which is kind of gray, but I'm including in the 2,000 square feet, the finished space that Sinai has now. So I'm not asking for his space plus 2,000 square feet.
Right.
Although we did get approval here to use that second floor for limited use upstairs.
It was just storage.
No.
Yes.
We
Storage and a
no.
break room, I
We
believe.
had break rooms and
right,
stuff
yeah,
like that.
all right, the break
That-
room.
So,
All
but
right.
that's okay. It's off the table, 2,000 cumulative, that included, so there's no arguing about what's an office, what's a break room, what's a bathroom, and things like that.
And
2,000
if you want to
clean.
use more, then you would need to provide the appropriate parking
That's
for an
correct.
additional square footage.
That's correct.
And Scott, you're comfortable the building department
Yes.
would be able to monitor that square footage, so we'll defer, the planning board's not going to decide which building's going to be improved in the interior,
The total.
but the total,
And if
right?
it's- And if it's anything beyond that gets removed back to original condition,
Okay.
original state. Yeah.
All right,
And pretty much that's it.
okay.
And I know Joe had some drainage comments.
Al,
Do we have,
Yes.
oh,
can you show me where you added this is a new space, right, from the last one?
Yes, that's correct.
And one more here?
That's correct. So that's where we got the net two, so that we're even Steven with the narrative and the error originally.
Well, we had also
et cetera.
talked right about
and you should still have the same number when you move the refuse container, because you'll be able to recover and add a couple additional spots up at the top.
I will absolutely do that, so
Okay.
I don't want to change narratives and.
Okay.
We're going to eliminate stack parking, right? We're agreeing.
Oh, 100%, no stack parking any longer, that's correct.
And Al?
Yes.
We were just looking here, and can we extend the sidewalk to just where it catches, the extend the sidewalk so it catches these parking spaces?
Michelle, where are you pointing?
She's pointing right over here and right over there, not a problem. I extended it in the back, I failed to extend it in the front, so.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, I extended it back here.
Okay, and then if you do, when you eliminate the dumpster from here, I'm assuming these are going to become parking?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and then you'll probably need like another foot this way a little bit to make it work. These are 9, so you could actually add 3.
That's 26 feet, might be to the inside.
You could add 3.
That's fine.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, well,
well,
you
yeah.
need it, I guess.
That's fine.
Okay.
Just one thing. I think currently there's some type of agreement with an adjoining property owner for parking. Is that right?
Yeah, there may be 2 agreements in place, yes.
So as part of this, do we continue to allow that to exist, or do we make that official, or do we, because it never came before the board for any kind of approval.
Are those still necessary? Are you intending to continue those?
I don't think so. Why would he pay for them? He's paying in the, across the street, Cronizer's old building, and the church up the street.
Right.
I don't know if they're still in force now, but I can find out for the next meeting.
Let's find out for the next meeting,
where
because
they
if they're
are.
not going to be left in place, we would just condition, we would
That's
add a
fine.
condition for that there's no shared parking,
Because there's
now
no
that the
safe-
site has sufficient
Yeah,
parking.
because there's no safe pedestrian
But he has enough
access
spaces
to
on his
those
site
points.
now.
Yes,
Right, that's the whole point, is that you
But
have
it's
your own
eliminated.
parkings. Yeah, okay.
that's fine.
But he doesn't need anything from us.
But we're aware of the fact now that it's got this.
Yeah, I'll find out for next meeting.
And you're still showing the lighting in the same places that you had previously? Because there was a light here that's not. Oh, okay, sorry.
Michelle, I'm assuming they're the appropriate fixtures, full cutoff,
Full cutoff.
directional, okay.
Are you going to be replacing the existing fixtures, or are these just going in the new?
It was discussed, but it's not part of what we're doing today. Yes, it was discussed with the doctor and myself, maybe we should replace all the light fixtures. And I don't know if that's something that we need to come before you, but it's not part of this application. And if I have to come back 6 months from now, when we decide to do that, I'll come back 6 months. It
Would
was
you be
discussed.
changing them to a fixture that's different than what you're showing for this plan?
Exactly, it would be exactly that fixture.
This fixture would be from the neighboring properties, probably a better fixture visually, because It's a gooseneck, and it covers the actual bulb. And one of the problems with the neighbor is that these kind of sit above the site, and they can see down onto the light fixtures.
Okay.
So this fixture would probably help that, because it makes, it's like.
So rather than asking for anyone to come back for an additional site plan amendment, I think, Tom, would we be able to say that this, we are approving the lighting for the additional parking, and in the event that they want to continue that same lighting scheme throughout the rest, we can just allow that to be replaced without needing to come back for an additional site plan?
Thank you.
It won't be a requirement, it'll be an allowance. Okay. Any objection to that or any concerns?
Nope.
Okay.
If I could, just one more item. There's an existing pool on the existing parcel.
That's correct.
So we really have no reason to go there and look at that, but you want to be sure that that fence and that gate meets code, you know, because now you'll have people in that area. We have had no reason up to now to go and inspect it, but you should just make sure it's in good condition, meets code, the right height, the door opens the right way, and that it's locked properly, that kids can't meander in there.
So
just take a look at that.
But that's not only the fence in the back, we're talking about the whole fence. So you're
Around that pool.
The fence around the pool.
So what you're saying
specifically.
is, if it does not currently meet code, you want me to
Yes,
bring that fence up to today's standards?
yes. Yeah, because when the building inspector...
Because you're going to have a lot more pedestrians wandering around the site. You don't want to have the pool not be secure.
Right now, it's a separate site. That pool is on another parcel right now. But now it's going to be part of this complex.
Okay, let's hope that it meets
Let's hope that
meets
it
code,
meets.
and I'm not going
I'm just
to
bringing it up
argue
to
it.
your
Okay,
attention.
we're not going to discuss it right now. Okay, that's fine. I have no problem.
Is that a working pool?
Brendan, I know you were,
It's a working pool.
Yeah, all right.
Just so I can confirm,
It's
if you
old,
replace the light
but it
fixtures,
works,
you
huh?
put them in the same exact location as the existing ones?
I probably would for fear of...
That's for your electric one.
Geez, now I have to redo a lot of electrical and what have you, but we would probably have to take a look at, the photometrics a little bit there.
okay.
So, but we haven't looked at it, only, again, discussed with the doctor, hey, maybe we'll do something there, so.
If you need to do that and you are moving locations or something like that, just a very simple visit in front of us shouldn't take.
And I have no
it's-
problem with,
Yeah,
working with
that's
Michelle
fine.
and making everything right, that's fine.
Brendan, I had a note from last time on the turning diagrams. Do we have the turning radius for the fire trucks in place yet? Do we know whether this works?
I think the response letter indicated that he's going to get some sign-off from the refuse company that it's adequate. I still think that we need to show the combination of the town's fire apparatus, because I believe it's probably different from when the site plan was originally approved.
That's true, but I'm not, my vehicular movement for a fire truck does not change because I'm creating two dead-end parking areas, so why would I have to
Well, you're coming in for a site plan amendment, and there's, whatever the equipment of the town is now, we should make sure that the site is adequate.
Well, I can't go over there because I have to stay here. But what happens if the radiuses are much greater and it knocks out half of my internal parking that's there? That's ridiculous.
Can we at least just see what the turning radius looks like? Let's see if it's really that bad or if it's something
That's fine.
that works.
Not a problem.
I think the thing you also have to consider is originally the upstairs was going to be unoccupied. Now, how that might affect fire response, I don't know, but now that you're going to occupy the upstairs to a greater extent, I think the FAB might want to take a second look at that and see, do they need some type of different access as a result of that? I'll leave it up to them.
And sometimes it's simple as just making something a mountable curb, like if you have curbing that may be in the way of a turning radius. And I don't know that that's necessary at all. I'm just saying we haven't seen it yet, so we need to be able to evaluate it. Brendan, anything else from a traffic
A
perspective?
couple little minor things. I thought, I know you didn't show the existing parking or the handicap parking or the existing handicap ramps.
I can do that.
That's good. The asphalt curbing on the back of the walkway. What is its function? So I'm almost thinking it might not be worthwhile, because it might actually, I don't know how this light it's graded, but if the water's going to sheet flow towards the front,
The water is sheet flowing towards the middle. There's a couple of, yes. So basically, yes, that's, yeah.
going towards the middle of the lot.
That's correct. Now the new drainage is being proposed there. And I wanted to kind of do it that way. I didn't want the sheet flow into the swimming pool, you know, and into that area. So we purposely tried to get the water away from, you know, the residential area.
And then it goes to where that goes?
It goes into a catch basin and it goes in, connects to the existing stormwater drainage system on Foster Road Professional site.
Joe, have you had a chance to look at the drainage for the new parking?
Just briefly, we did have some comments. I think Al has read them. I mean, what he's doing makes sense. It's just we were asking for some more calculation on pervious cover and
Okay,
pipe sizes and things.
okay. Brendan, anything else from you?
That's all.
Michelle, anything else for you? Okay, Joe? All right, Scott? Tom?
No, I think the only other thing from the former letter that came in was about maybe where the mud is dropped on the sidewalk to be picked up at odd hours. And I don't know if there's been consideration of maybe relocating that.
I think.
Has that been done already?
I think that's been done already. I think that was.
That was done with the last
Yes.
visit.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from board members?
I have one
Last
question.
time, I
Yes,
had a
sir.
note that says we needed some letter from the Dutchess County Health Department.
Absolutely.
We're still waiting on
Yes,
it.
yes, absolutely, I do.
And did we have
But yes, we do.
For the first go-around, was there any issue about hours of operation? I thought we talked about hours for...
I think we had established them with the last time we saw it. I don't recall what they were off the top of my head,
I
but
believe there were hours related to the lighting of the cupola.
The cupola, yes.
Like
Okay.
some issue with the lighting of the, is that what you call that?
I thought also the hours of operation. because-
Yes.
we had hours of
was
operation,
there
but
was
they didn't want
hours
the
of
parking
operation.
lot lights lit all night. We wanted them
Yes.
to go out after.
Right,
a certain
but we
hour.
did discuss, and we can go back in the minutes, I don't remember, I have a short memory, but part of the discussion when we were talking about the second floor and this and that, many, many months ago, I believe was that Dr. Sinha had now Sunday hours for a half a day. I think that was part and parcel of that whole discussion, and I
All
think
right.
the board...
So Al, if you would just reiterate for us the hours of operation,
Sure.
but also the hours of lighting of the parking lot and the building, including the cupola, if that is the right word. I think it is.
Yeah, it is.
It's the right.
All right. And Bob, you said you had a question? I'm
Yes,
sorry.
but I was looking.
Yep, no, go for it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The problems with the neighbor.
Yes.
I know he's upgrade from the doctor's place of business. How high would a privacy fence have to be between your light fixtures and his house to just block it off?
Yeah, we do it.
Probably 20 feet, maybe
Okay,
higher,
that's still
yeah.
high. Okay, I was
Yeah.
just curious.
Yeah.
I know it slopes up, but I haven't done any measurements.
Yeah, you can pretty much, if you were to just drive into the parking lot, yeah, you can see his house as plain as day.
I was just wondering how, if you could block it, that's all. 20 feet's a bit extreme.
I mean, it's pretty, right now, it's pretty, I mean, in the winter, it's different, but right now, it's pretty, you can't even really see one way or another, you know?
Were all those trees alive on that side, or had one or two died?
And we replaced them. So that was an issue 6 months ago as well. Within a week or two, the doctor went in there. There were a couple of trees along Foster Road, I believe, that were dead. Okay, replace them. They're replaced.
Okay.
If there's anything else, I'll take a look, and he'll replace them. He doesn't want it.
And I'm sorry, just one more, Brendan, this is probably more traffic related, but the total square footage right now is increasing by about 2,000 square feet. Is there anything we need to do as far as traffic study or anything like that? It seems like it's small compared to the rest of the property, but I just want to make sure.
It wouldn't amount to much in terms of peak hour traffic.
Okay, so no impact to Route 82 traffic or the spur?
One of the concerns, I think, in that recent letter was traffic on Foster Road, not so much 82, but Foster Road.
Right.
I don't know whether...
I'll take a look and
I'm just saying, I'm not sure that, in comparison to the total square footage of the building, I'm not sure that the 2,000 is going to be a significant change, and if it's mostly employee space, I'm not sure it's going to change the traffic flow as far as patients go, but I just want to make sure we've looked at it.
The original development, did that have traffic study or you have?
No.
Anything done in terms of calculation of the traffic flow?
No.
Okay. All right. Al, do you have any other questions for us or anything?
Oh, I'd like to schedule a public hearing if I can.
Okay, read back to me what you're gonna adjust on the plan, if you don't mind.
I'm moving the dumpster.
Keep going.
Do you know where you're moving the dumpster?
We're gonna show, we're gonna see what the new fire truck radiuses are going to impact the lot.
Okay,
The hours of operation we'll bring to the table.
good.
I don't know, what else was there?
You were going to extend the sidewalks
Oh,
from
we're
the
gonna
new...
take a look at, we're gonna take a look at the fence, but the only way that could be handled is if it does not in fact meet code, a note or detail to that effect on the site plan suggesting, and then wherever you feel is the appropriate time that repair takes place, before we get a building permit, before you get a C of O for the 2,000 square feet, however, wherever timeline you want to do that, but that's fine. If it doesn't meet it, and we can go out there together. We'll go out there, UI, the building department, and it's totally up to you. But, so that'll be handled via note if in fact it's not.
I mean, we could go out tomorrow and look at it.
Sure.
And if there's a problem, we cite them with a violation and everything stops, it's fixed and all that kind of stuff. It's better if we just clean it all up as
I
part
think
of this.
we shouldn't do that. Let's
Right,
just make
right.
sure that the site meets current code
Right.
That's fine.
for the swimming pool. Okay. Did you catch you're extending the sidewalks on the new parking to the building 1 and building 2?
Yes.
We're still waiting on the health department letter back to Teresa's point.
So eliminating the off-site parking?
You're going to get back to us on whether or not you're going to continue either the parking agreements, but if they're not needed, since your
yes.
site should have sufficient parking, now we'd prefer them to be extinguished.
That's-
And I think there was some parking you wanted delineated, right?
Handicap
But
parking.
just to get on that off-site, I know one of the complaints was when they park directly across and people walk across that street, there is no pedestrian crosswalk and there is no lighting, so.
Well, let's either confirm that there's
Hopefully
going to be a
it's just-
continued agreement or not, and then we'll go from there, but. And you were going to show the existing handicap, was it just the handicap parking?
I'll show, I don't think I do on the existing conditions, do I? On the existing condition plan?
think the
I don't do it then
and
either.
Existing curb ramps too.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
So just delineate the existing site for us, because then, that way you're all set.
That's fine.
Hours of operation.
We got that. We said that. Michelle, was there anything, to John's point with the lighting, that we needed?
No, I just, once you've confirmed what you're going to do and where, we may have to have a conversation if you have to relocate the locations of the lights, just to make sure that it's not going to affect any parking or cause any other issues. So just let me know when you look at that.
But I think we wanted both the hours of operation and the hours that the site will be lit.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, did anybody have anything else that we missed? All right. Al, how long will it take you to submit a revised drawing for us?
24 hours, we did it last time. But you know, I mean, when's the next available public hearing that I can get on for, and we'll work towards that end. If it's 2 weeks, I'll get it into you in 2 days.
It won't be 2 weeks. You have a 25-day notice requirement, so
Okay.
the earliest is going to be the first meeting in October.
1st October, then?
Hold on.
That's fine.
Michelle, do we need to circulate with this?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
There's no.
Even though we're adding a second lot into the overall site?
It's all approved town approvals. I don't think there's any other agency that's going to be involved in approving
Because there's no access on 82 for the commercial use or anything like, okay.
right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Like when you redevelop the LA lot, if you go on to a curb cut on 82, then we would have DOT involvement.
That'll be a future.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So October 6th, you have to get you still have the 25-day notice requirement mailings and advertising requirements. You need to sign up. That works, October 6th?
That's
We would
fine.
need the revised plans in at least 2 weeks prior to that, so the professionals have time to review them.
That's fine.
Okay.
You'll have them in a matter of days.
Okay, great. So do I have a motion to sign the Foster Road Professional Building Maselli site plan to a public hearing, on October 6th?
So moved?
I have a motion, do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, October 6th.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, that was the last item on our agenda for tonight, so do I have, unless there's anything else we need to go over, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Thanks, guys.